Welcome back, my friends, to the Full Experience. This is a show where we get like a slice, like an archaeological slice, like an MRI slice of a television show by watching the first, ultimate, lowest rated, and last episode of the show to kind of understand what it was about without having to watch the entire show. I'm Tom Merritt. Brian Brushwood is with me, and for this latest round of the Full Experience, we are talking about The Good Place, starting with the first episode, Everything is Fine, September 19th, 2016. But Brian, you astutely noted that there was a second episode of The Good Place that also aired on September 19th, 2016.
Yeah, there wasn't enough of, first of all, at 22, 24 minutes an episode, they're very short and prime time. And we'll get into this later, but it's also fairly formulaic in that every episode begins with a, here we are in this situation. And then you tee up for a short twist before the commercial break. And then they come back and they're like, opening joke about a recap of where we are right now. In this case, because, for a premiere of a lighthearted but surprisingly in-depth moral philosophy comedy showcase, they end with a twist, and so it makes sense that they would do two back-to-back. So we have our first ideological divide in the history of the Full Experience. Having just 2 weeks ago introduced my 12-year-old daughter to the show, am now midway through season 3. But I just watched it, so I have seen episode 1 and episode 2 recently. You only refreshed yourself on episode 1.
Yes, I understand you are a living constitutionalist when it comes to the Full Experience. I am a strict constructionist. Yes. The first episode is the first episode. It does not involve a second episode, unless that second episode originally aired as part of the first episode when the founders originally aired the episode. We have done that where it was like aired as a thing, and then in syndication they split it apart. This is not that. These are two separate episodes. They were just both aired on the first day. So all kidding aside, I thought it would be fun, since I only watched the first episode, to compare how we reacted to the experience of either watching just that first episode or both episodes that aired on that first day. And of course, we both watched the entire season already, so it's not like we're left in the dark either.
Well, so what was it like only watching one half of the premiere experience?
I would never have realized there was a second episode on that day if you hadn't told me. It felt like a complete introduction to the series. You start with Eleanor. I had forgotten how different it felt when you didn't know what was coming. I watched it cold. I just knew that it looked funny and it had Ted Danson, and a bunch of other people I liked in it. And so I watched it and I was like, oh, is she in a psychologist's office? And then he very quickly says, you're dead. And then the jokes keep coming. And then you think, oh, she must be a good person because clearly only good people make it here. And then, she reveals, you kind of get the idea when he's like, and of course, you as a person who got people off death row, and she kind of looks and you're like, yeah, she didn't seem like that's what her dig is. It felt like a perfect introduction. Like, she's here. This is where it is. It's heaven. Oh, she's not supposed to be here, and she has messed things up, because at the very end, you get the flying shrimp, you get Ariana Grande playing very loud. They're all things tied back to her. Everyone else is wearing these weird blue and yellow costumes except for her. And then, she tries to get Chidi to help her. And it starts the first of his many stomach pains as he digs into the moral quandary of whether he should help Eleanor or reveal the truth.
So the only thing you miss by watching the very first episode and not the first two back-to-back, I think it is worth watching the first two if what you need, to be honest, actually, let me take this back. If you're doing the Full Experience as a purist like Tom is, you probably don't need to watch the second episode, because all the second episode does is throw you the first hurdle on the path to redemption, because very clearly you've you've got Eleanor saying, I don't belong here. And you got the proposal of, you got to help me. We got to pull this one off, whatever this is. The twist at the end of the second episode is a note slides under the door that simply says, you don't belong here, to her. And we don't know who it's from or whatever. But the only thing you get from episode 2 is step 1 on her trying to write herself to catch up, basically cram last minute for the exam of a lifetime with her ethics professor. But then you get the first indication that we're going on a road of trials and tribulations.
Okay, so yeah, you get the first impediment on her road. The episode I watched is here's her overall challenge, and the second episode is like, here's how those challenges will manifest. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, or basically, here's the lay of the land. The game is
this? Yeah.
Here's the game we're playing. The game is every episode we're going to introduce a unique moral conundrum. We're going to explore it. There, shockingly, will be a air quotes real afterlife scenario where they have to face it in the hypothetical and the practical. So you got big world, small world juxtaposition there, and there'll be setbacks in the ongoing shenanigans Three's Company of everything's fine here. I'm definitely not on 2 dates at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Few other things that stuck out to me. Janet is ChatGPT.
Yeah, boy.
Like Janet felt like the future. Now Janet felt like a slightly advanced version of what we have.
Well, and she was definitely, they make winks to iPhone, and this is when Siri was still pretty new and novel, because Siri really hit the scene, 2012-ish on the iPhone? So it was emerging as a semi-reliable assistant, and so they just imagined, what would it look like if it was much, much more reliable? Exactly correctly predicting what ChatGPT would look like.
It had infinite knowledge, right? There's nothing that Janet doesn't know, whereas that's not true of ChatGPT.
Also, very quick to remind you that it has no feelings and cannot become upset by things. Also, another prediction, spoiler alert, one character falls in love with this robot who clearly says, I am not capable of loving you back.
Is our Buddhist monk unveiled in episode 2?
No. So they preserve that secret. Zhan Yu, who you meet in the very first episode and in the second episode, has a secret, but it is not revealed. And what was really fun watching this with my 12-year-old was she, at turns, she's watching and she sees Tahani and she's like, I don't like her. I don't like her at all. And then later on, somebody else shows up and she's like, I don't like him. I don't like him at all. And then within a few episodes, she has in turn hated every single one of our main character who we love so much that we cry for by the end of this experience.
And she cries for by the end of this experience. Yeah.
She doesn't know how it all ends, but spoiler alert. You cry at the end of this.
Another thing that I don't know if you caught this or not, when Ted Danson is showing her memories, which are not her memories, he says, "Here's your human rights mission to Ukraine."
Oh yeah,
in 2016,
that jumped out.
There was a war in Ukraine in 2014. And I suppose there would be a human rights mission at that time, but wow, that felt prescient in 2024 to see that as the explanation.
Yeah. So couple of thoughts, production brain kicking in. Did you notice the use of color palettes in this program?
I did not.
So,
I mean, nothing stuck out to me about it. Tell me more.
Well, so like the loudest piece is, of course, when suddenly everybody's clothing glitches and it becomes navy and gold, which earlier Eleanor is wearing blue and gold with, I believe, Michigan University
which clothing. Are the Michigan colors. So, that makes sense.
And also, if you look at her house, every single outfit matches all of the pillows in the background. It is exquisitely decored. and color paletted across Tahani has her own color palette.
Okay.
This is not something normally I would notice, except for lately I pay more and more attention to production stuff. But it's great. This is a delightful show. There are moments that they get almost full meta in the writing, but there are segments where, and Only Murders in the Building does this as well, where you could practically hear the writer's room announcing themselves, where they'll write lines like, "Where are we in this episode? ... of the podcast," or whatever, right?
Yes,
or it's like,
right.
There are times when ostensibly Michael's talking about how humans are like, but very clearly this is a specific gripe to Hollywood writers screaming from the writer's room in there. And I don't have a specific example from this first one, but
no, there was one that it did cross my mind, and I didn't take a note on it either, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
But it's a delightful game, and you could tell the game that they're going to play right from the beginning. If the job of a pilot is to be a microcosm of the entire program and to be kind of a loud press release of what you can expect, they nailed it. This thing got me from the get-go.
I forgot Chidi spoke French.
Yes, they brought that up, and in fact later they do some wordplay bits that tickle the. Well, how does that work? Is he still talking French?
Yeah. Okay, so I have been mostly talking about this in the sense of this is the first episode, and so people who are watching the first episode would know nothing about what is coming the rest of the season. Is it okay to crack open that door to our cache of knowledge of what's coming? Because I have some questions watching this episode.
You know what? This is a weird thing to do on the full experience, but what
spoiler alert?
Give a spoiler alert and say we're going to talk a little bit about this episode in the context of the full series. But before you switch off and we go into spoilers, let me just give a quick recommendation. I think I mentioned this before. This might be why we ended up picking this, but Michael Schur also wrote a book called How to Be Perfect. That the audiobook is actually, there are giant segments voiced by the cast of The Good Place. It's really a delight. I'm most of the way through it. You could tell he did his homework over the course of making this show.
I thought you were going to do a sponsor read there. That was so smooth.
All right, so let's talk about how the first episode plays within the context of the full show.
So, if you don't know, we will be revealed later that I'm going to be minimally spoilery. Okay, just enough to make my point. Many of the denizens of this town are demons. And many of the denizens of this town, as you could probably have guessed from Tahani's character, did not belong in the good place. Are all the good people stories then from the demons? Because you have the montage of everyone talking about the wonderful things they've done. And that is Eleanor reacting at the party like, oh, crap. Yeah, I guess all these people really do belong in the good place.
They do establish within the self-contained lore that all of the demons have access to everybody's track record. So I would imagine that all of their character, give or take, are based on, people who are alleged to have made it into the good place. So it's like, well, I'll just take here, take a slip. These are all your achievements. But it also seems like they're kind of winging it an awful lot. It seems like it's not the strictest thing.
Also, I just want a tip of the hat to the writer of Michael and the performance of Ted Danson, knowing what his character becomes or what we will find out about who his character really is. I saw no seams. I saw nothing where I was either saying like, oh, that's a giveaway, or, oh, that maybe he didn't know. In fact, at one point I was like, does he know? Did Ted Danson know when he told her she was in the good place that she wasn't? Because there is a look in his eye when he tells her that.
Danson does such a good job of inhabiting the character of Michael that it kind of broke my brain just last night as we're in the middle of season 3. There's this moment where he said something that slightly felt not as Michael-y as one would expect. It was kind of rough and confident, and I was like, well, that's so unusual for Ted Dance. No, it's unusual for the character Michael, who I have so fallen in love with that I forgot that the actor Ted Danson was the macho jerk from Cheers.
Right.
About as manly and rough around the edges as you were gonna get. The guy who would mock Shelley Long to her face and then talk about having sex with her. It was like he does such a great job of inhabiting Michael that felt like a completely different person.
That's no, it is incredible. It's really good. Also, just so many good lines, so many funny little lines, so many little throwaways. When she is essentially talking about purgatory and they resist the temptation to name check purgatory. And instead she's like, someplace like Cincinnati, just send me there.
Or I think she brings up the idea in the very first episode of a medium place.
Yes, right. That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm like, oh, she's going to mention, Chidi's going to say purgatory. So I mean, no, she's just like, like Cincinnati. And that's it. They just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's so good. Any other thoughts on 101, Everything is Fine?
No, this'll appear out of order for people, and I apologize, but Cliff Singer in the chat just mentioned the Penguin, and I should have mentioned that in Buried Treasure. I'm now 2 episodes in on the Penguin. It continues to be great.
All right.
That's a little footnote.
So here is the plan for the full experience of The Good Place. Everything is Fine is the first episode. The ultimate top-rated episode is season 1, episode 13, Michael's Gambit. The lowest rated episode is going to jump us all the way to season 4, episode 6, A Chip Driver Mystery. And then, of course, the finale is season 4, episode 13, Whenever You're Ready.
Tom, I think that we are on track to have the Shield level perfect full experience again in terms of that's pretty much the show. I think our experiment is going to bear fruit on this one.
Yeah, I remember watching The Good Place live from debut, got about 6 episodes in, and then fell off in that way of like, oh, it's on my DVR, because that's how long ago. It's on my DVR. I mean to get back to it. But I just keep forgetting. And then finally getting back to it, catching up, watching Michael's Gambit, the season finale of season 1, and going, oh crap, this show's really good. I can't wait for season 2. So I think
James B in the chat is saying that he's going to be watching it for the first time. Congratulations.
Yes.
You're going to love it. It's great. It is supremely bingeable. It is so much better. I can't imagine how it played week over week, just onesie here or there. But because like every time we sit down, we end up doing 3 to 4 of them in a row. Like 3 of them is barely more than an hour.
Yeah. If you would like to play along with us, now you know the game. So please watch along. Our next episode will be Ultimate Episode 113, Michael's Gambit. You get these episodes early if you're a patron. And in fact, you know about what we're going to pick next if you're a patron. This time, the patrons knew more than we did because we forgot we said this until I asked Amos and he had to go listen to After Talk and go, oh, we said The Good Place in After Talk. So get After Talk, become a patron at patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll be back with the ultimate in the full experience next time. Talk to you then.